For the second episode of Why We Journey, I spoke to Lamide Akintobi, award-winning journalist and TV personality who is a producer for CNN International, in a role in which she creates a lot of Africa-focused content. You may have seen some of her interviews with some recognizable faces. She travels on the continent both for work and play, and we had such a wonderful conversation about what being African means, the beauty and the reality of traveling the continent, the stories and reflections that remain with her, and so much more. So listen in. So yeah, Lamide, thank you so much for being here. Um, I'm so excited to speak with you because I feel like you're the perfect guest for Why We Journey. I mean, first of all, your work links you so intimately to the continent, and you've been able to travel across different countries and, relate to people from different African countries. Like I remember I used to see Lamide Travels and you did that for a while.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
yeah, you've been, I mean, so many different places, like from Zambia to Zimbabwe to the Seychelles to Morocco, Rwanda, Tanzania, and both for work and for holiday. So, yeah, I'm so glad to have you. I feel like you're the
I'm so glad to
perfect
be
perfect
here.
guest. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But I mean, the first thing that I was wondering, also based on, your work and everything, what does being African mean to you, and where does your passion for the continent come from?
So being African to me is sort of being this expansive person who is, yes, I'm from one place, but I'm really from the entire continent because it's one of those things where wherever you step into, you are kind of representing the continent. And I don't mean that in that weird cliche way, like, oh, I'm Africa. No, but it really is, when you encounter people and you encounter, different circumstances or different environments, you're not just from Nigeria. You're from, like, if I'm in East Africa, for example, I'm West Africa, right? Because we're West African. If I'm in a Francophone country, maybe in West Africa, I'm from, you know what I mean? And so for me, being African means I'm like this expansive person. I'm almost like a universe unto myself, in a way. And my passion for the continent, I don't even know if my passion for the continent was forced upon me, thrust upon me, and I just happen to be living in it in a way, because
Mm,
being blessed enough to travel, and go away for school and then come back home, um, I think I was just really impressed by what I saw, the people I saw, the kind of things that I experienced, right? And in as much as this continent and this country has many failings and many challenges, there's something about, and everybody says it, there's something about the people. There's something about the
yeah.
people. And when you see all the things that we do despite and in spite of and because of and trying to get around this thing or the other, I think sometimes you just can't help but be impressed. And so one
Yeah.
of the things that I say is that I believe that my purpose here in this world, or part of my purpose in this world, is to amplify. And I've always done that in in a way, shape, or form. So I've always tried to amplify or amplified stories, people, things like that. And I think in my mind,
Mm,
I have a knack for it in a sense. And sometimes I just see things, I'm like, oh, this story needs to be told. And so I think from there, as I just kept growing in my career, in my work, and all that I did, that just kind of ended up being, I guess, what we see today, which is, I don't know if it's a passion for Africa, but I'm just doing what I do.
No,
Yeah.
I love it so much. And I love what you said about how everywhere we go, it's like part of our identity and it's part of how we are perceived, but also how we present ourselves. And then, yeah, what you're saying about the people, I feel like I definitely see what you mean. Like when I've been to different countries, it just comes across like either people are really welcoming or really innovative. But yeah, no, I also was wondering, have you always considered yourself, African as and not just Nigerian? Like, what was your perception of the continent like when you were growing up, like when you were younger? How did you sort of see yourself?
That's such a great question. I don't know that I was really aware right?
Mm.
You know how it's sort of like you don't know who you are until somebody tells you or points something out that you didn't realize about yourself. Like people say, and which is true. Oh, I didn't realize I was Black until I went somewhere where nobody was. You know what I mean? And people were
Yeah.
saying or were looking at me strangely, or I didn't realize I was African until. So I remember really knowing my Africanness when I first moved to the States and when I was in the
Mm.
US for school. I remember meeting a lot of new people, fellow students and things like that, where it was like, it wasn't that she's Nigerian. It was, oh, she's from Africa. And I just thought to myself, oh, okay. I never thought of it that way. Even though, as a teen, I had gone to a couple of different countries. My mom works in the travel industry. So
Mm.
very lucky to have been able to travel to a few places in Africa. Although we did the typical thing too, of like, oh, you go to London for summer, you go to America for summer, that kind of a thing.
Mm.
We did get to go to a couple of African countries, which was really cool. I mean, my 15th birthday was actually spent in Zambia. Because my mom
Oh,
was working there for a
wow.
few months. That's where I had my 15th birthday. Yeah, yeah.
That is so
This is very,
cool.
yeah. So it's just, yeah, I think my awareness of myself as an African probably came later in life, not because I'm not an African, but just because it was more of an othering thing. It was more like, oh, that's the African. Because even in high
Yeah.
school in the UK, I didn't really feel that way very much, just because there were a lot of other African, students in my school, and I didn't. Yeah, I had a sort of a wide, I guess, network of different friends, but I never really felt othered within that sort of
Mm.
school context. And of course, then there's home, there's family. Um, but I think the whole identity and awareness of like, oh, you're African was very much tied to undergrad, when it became like the way people would identify me, also because there weren't a lot of Africans in my school at the time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That is so interesting because even though you had traveled to different African countries when you were growing up, that wasn't necessarily what sort of awakened that identity in you, but it
Yeah.
was you
Yeah.
then leaving the continent and going somewhere where you were then representing the continent in terms of how you were
Hmm.
perceived. And I
Yeah.
can definitely relate to that because, well, in my case, my first experience of another African country didn't happen until after I had already moved to
Yeah.
England. But
Yeah.
I remember being in boarding school and we were doing this book called The Heart of Darkness in English class. And
Hmm.
it's basically one of those books where it was kind of like speaking about colonial times, like in a
Right.
country in Africa that's not, I can't remember if they specified where it was set, but it was essentially representing Africans in a specific like way.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I remember the teacher asking me for my opinion, kind of like as a representative of,
Of
and
Africa.
I'm literally like, I don't know, I just got here. Like
Yeah, like,
this
I'm just a girl. Don't ask me these
like,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how to represent the whole continent. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's really interesting. But then
Yeah.
when you say about traveling when you were younger, do you remember the first African country you got to visit?
I think I feel like it was probably Ghana. I just don't remember when. I know we did quite a lot of moving around. I feel like Zambia at 15 was one of like my most, you're a bit of, you're grown, you're actually able to do
Mm,
things, and you're not just like, oh, they took us somewhere and we were all like, whatever. So Zambia for me was probably my favorite. Zambia and Zimbabwe, because it was all sort of like the same, kind of
nice.
like around the same summer at the same time. Zambia and Zimbabwe
That's
were
really
two
cool.
wonderful places. Zambia I remember with a lot of fondness, because I spent more of the
Mm.
time there, and it was lovely. Yeah.
I'm yet to visit both of those countries.
I need
I'm
to go
really
back because I
excited
don't
to
really, I
go.
mean, yes, yes, absolutely. They're beautiful
But
places.
what
I
would
would,
you say, like, from those trips, like, what resonated with you, like, in terms of your experiences on maybe things that were similar or different to what you knew as a Nigerian? Were there any things that stood out?
I mean, again, the people, were lovely. It
Yeah.
was amazing. It was such a wonderful free time. I feel like, no responsibilities, no bills. And so you're just skipping and hopping and having a great time. Made a few friends that summer. I remember there were things that I thought were so cool. I remember thinking back then, like, they have this, I think there, how we tie wrapper, like you have a wrapper,
Yeah.
you tie the wrapper, whatever. I don't know why it stood out to me, but I remember going there and seeing that they also tied wrapper. They called the wrapper chitenge. And I was so fascinated by it. I just loved it because I was like, oh, this is very much like Ankara. This is Ankara. Then I'm no, we call it chitenge. And I loved them so much. I used to really like enjoy, I just always thought it was so delightful. I remember being
Yeah.
gifted one for my 15th birthday. Like they, some of the people that I had met, and like their parents and moms and stuff, they gifted me chitenge for my birthday. And things like that. I remember sort of just doing a lot of walking, just walking around. It was just a beautiful city. I mean, couldn't go too far, but with one of my mom's colleagues and her daughter, we used to walk around and run around a little bit. And I just remember the people being extremely welcoming, extremely kind, a little amused by this random Nigerian girl who was so tickled by all sorts of things, and yeah. That's kind of what I remember the most. It was a long time ago.
No, I mean, I love that because it's really cool that even somewhere that's so far away from Nigeria, we can still experience
Connect,
things that
exactly.
remind us of home.
Of home.
And it just, yeah, it's really,
Yeah,
it's amazing how culture just permeates, through across all of these
absolutely.
borders. And
Absolutely.
yeah, when you were speaking about obviously like your mom working in travel, is that kind of what stared? Because I know you're quite a passionate traveler, like both in and out of the continent. Has that
Yeah.
always been the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, where'd they come
Yeah.
from?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't born on a plane, but I just had, like, I'm like, probably by like the age of, 8 months or something, I was already flying. Like, I love being on planes. I love looking out the window. See, turbulence doesn't really bother me that much. I love, and I think that's fully down to my mom because I think that
Yeah,
she felt that they should experience this stuff. Like she didn't feel like, oh, don't put kids on planes until they're 10 or until they're whatever. And from what she says, we were good travelers. So I guess, she was lucky
nice.
that way.
My ears
Yeah.
were always popping when I was like young. So I was always like crying on
Oh,
planes or drinking orange
oh,
juice or chewing
yeah.
gum.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she tells me stories and I vaguely remember like one or two things, but sometimes I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if this was a dream or whatever. But she always says, because she, in her travel career, she was many things.
Mm.
She had been at one point an air hostess when she was very young. Like her first job, I think, was like Nigeria Airways when that was still a thing, and she was an air hostess. And
Oh,
so
wow.
she went through the ranks of like, British Caledonian before it was British Airways, and she did different things. So she had so many people, and so many different like connections. So it was funny because sometimes we'd be
Yeah,
on a plane and she would know some of the hostesses, maybe from a different time or something like that. And so
yeah.
it was so fun because back then, like they would let me like push the trolley down. When they're pushing the trolley
That's
down and be
so
like, oh, tea or
cool.
water, like they would let me push it, and go with them. Like now it's like health and safety, you
Yeah.
can't do that. But, but back then it was like all those things. So I have so many fun memories of like being at the airport, being on planes, just like seeing how things work,
Yeah.
the machinery behind things. And so I definitely think it's down to my mom, like my passion for travel. She's the cause of it all.
Oh, I love that so much. And do you feel like you still, you're not scared when you're on planes or when you're traveling, like turbulence still doesn't phase you?
Not really. I mean, unless it's really bad, then I mean, I'm not superhuman. If it's crazy, then I'm like, okay, all right, we need to chill on this. Yeah, but I love to
Yeah.
fly. I don't enjoy what the process is now. Getting, the
Mm.
like, but the actual, you get on the plane and you're going somewhere. It's amazing for me still because I still have wonder. I still look out the window
Yeah.
and I cannot believe that I'm up in the air. Like me and the clouds were right next to each other. Like, and it's also very much because I'm also very much like God, you're actually awesome, because wow, look at all
Yeah.
this space between down there and up here. And here I am up there, and then I'm going to be down there in a few hours or whatever the case may be. So I still have that wonder, you know, I still enjoy looking out to see what the world is, what the world looks like from that vantage point.
No, I definitely agree. It's really special. Just seeing the clouds. I remember when I was younger, I used to think that I would be able to walk on the clouds or like hop from one to
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
They just look
Yeah.
so solid, and
Yes.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and it's amazing that even now when you travel so much for work, you still have that wonder and, you know,
Yeah.
that curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, in terms of your work, because you work across the continent and so you travel a lot across the continent for work, how has your experience of travel when you're working, how has that differed from how you experience the continent when you're, you know, maybe just going on holiday, for example?
Yeah. So there's some similarities and there are some differences. Obviously, the main difference being that when you're there for work, there's not really a lot of time for recreation. I'm going to do the
Mm,
thing that I'm going to, you know, work on, and then I'm going back home. And so any
yeah.
time, any sort of, it's hard to carve out time to do anything fun or recreational a lot of the time. So
Mm,
it's like you're in, you're out. You know, you're in there for 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days, and then you're back out. And I mean, technically, I work mostly in West Africa. The only non-West African trip that I did for work was Madagascar. Um, because that one, there was this particular story that I pitched, and I was gonna go. I was like, you're not gonna take that from me.
mm,
So I was gonna go. But typically I work around West Africa. So I do a lot of traveling to places like I'll do Ghana quite a bit. You know, I've done Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal a couple of times, Benin Republic,
mm,
you know. So I'm Cameroon. I'm here on this, you know, our edge of the continent. The Gambia is coming up as well soon, and I'm hoping that I get to just basically
yeah.
see everywhere in West Africa. So yeah, but
Nice.
it's lovely to encounter the people in the way, because when I go as a producer, when I go and I'm encountering these people, I'm going to film like a story about something. So you get to really learn a lot,
Yeah.
because then you get to hear about maybe projects being built or somebody who's doing something amazing on the, you know, in their neck of the woods, in
Mm,
their community or in the country. You get to see projects being built. You get to, you know,
mm,
hear stories of like just amazing things happening. And so that's always lovely, because it's nice to be reminded. You can be quite jaded sometimes, you know, when things are going on in the world and you're just so jaded about how life is and all that kind of stuff. But you get to go somewhere, you encounter these people, you hear these stories, you see these projects, or you see this development, innovation, tech, you know,
mm,
culture, art, all those things. And it's like, wow, it's like, okay, there's still, you know, there's so much good. There's still good here. There's still, you know,
yeah.
there's still wonder. There's still great things happening. You know, and so there are things that are similar in
Yeah.
terms of, you know, you're going somewhere new, you're encountering the people, you know, and that's wonderful and that's fun. But with work, obviously, you're going there, you're in and you're out. You don't really have time to
Yeah.
laze about and do all that kind of stuff. So those are, I would say the main similarities is you're still encountering a lot of different people, and then the main difference is that you're
Yeah.
not really building in time for recreation and exploring. You're just kind of going where the story takes you.
I think it's really cool that because of the nature of your work, you've been able to, you know, zoom in and like encounter specific stories, as you said, or
Mm-hmm.
specific projects, and just really get to have I guess, a better or a deeper sense of a place
Yeah.
or of people by actually being able to relate with
Yeah.
them.
And
Um,
then another
yeah,
thing, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, I was going to say is
of
another thing
course.
about work that I like. Sometimes I don't like it, but but a lot of times I like it, is that you don't go, sometimes you're going off the beaten path. So let's say
Mm,
someone's going to Ghana. They probably want to go to Accra, you know,
mm,
but sometimes I'm going to Ghana for work. I'm not going to Accra. I'm going to Sunyani. I've got to get on a, you know, on a plane and then a boat and then a this, you know what I mean? If I'm going, when I went to Cameroon, I landed in the city, but I then drove several hours to Batie, which is like way, way out there.
Mm.
You know, it's not the place that you would typically go if you were saying, oh, I want to go on a vacation, you know? And so you
Yeah.
get to discover different places, whether for good or for bad, but you get to discover, you know, different places that are off the beaten path or off, you know, not where you would typically go. And so that's another thing that I
Yeah.
just remembered, you know, as you were speaking.
And what you said is true because we would probably tend to stick to maybe more touristy places. And
Yeah.
so, has there been any examples that you've had, like where you were pleasantly surprised by places that you were exposed to?
Hmm. I mean, yeah. So I would say I'm almost always pleasantly surprised. Now, sometimes
Mm.
the journey there, because, you know, African infrastructure.
Yeah.
So like the destination's fine. It's just getting there can sometimes be a little bit stressful, you know? I mean, yes. But a lot of places I think I've enjoyed going to. Ghana, I've liked going to the different regions because even as a
Mm.
traveler, I don't know that I've ever said to myself, oh, I want to see what's in the northern region. Like, no, I'm going to Accra
Mm.
because I know some people there and they have this restaurant that I like, and this is where I'm going to Accra. But because, you know, again, I mentioned Sunyani as one of the places we went to. We went to this massive moringa farm. Like, and you just saw it was amazing to see. Like we went down to, oh, what's the name of this? I can't remember the name of the city. And I went to this place where it just had like huge, like a mango, not a plantation, but like huge mango farms where they get a lot of the mangoes that they process for like dried fruit and export and things like that. We went there. I mean, there have been so many pleasant surprises just because of what is there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's really interesting because at the moment, on Inktippedjourneys, I'm having conversations with people from Ghana, and they were
Mm-hmm.
naming parts of Ghana that I haven't yet had the, opportunity to visit,
Yeah.
like Buswa, the beach, or Keta, which is in
Yeah.
Upper Volta region.
Yeah.
And I was thinking
Yeah.
about it because I went to Ghana in December, but I only had the time to go to Accra. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, actually, obviously, Accra is not Ghana. The same way that
Yes.
Lagos is not
Lagos is not
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
And
Exactly.
and having the opportunity to actually experience other places like through work, especially places that you might not have had the opportunity to go to is just really cool. But I mean, as you've worked with and you've interacted with people across the continent, from creatives to people in tech to entrepreneurs, what have you learned and like what has it stirred in you? I know that you mentioned that it has given you hope, but um, are there any other sort of like things that have stuck with you from your experiences across the continent?
Absolutely. I mean, I would also say things like boldness, things like vim. It's like get up and go, just do
Yeah.
it. Honestly, you know, and the phrase that we've heard many times is, you know, no one's gonna save you, you gotta save yourself. It keeps being
Mm,
reinforced, you know, a lot of times when I'm encountering people, because there are a lot of people who are not waiting for a handout or waiting for any external situation. They're just making do with what they have and they're making things happen. And so it's
yeah.
very much like this is a person that is like me in the sense that we're both in Africa, we're both Africans, we're doing all these things. And this person had an idea and they ran with it. So sometimes it's that boldness, it's that fearlessness, it's that, you know, audacity as well that will
Hmm.
rise up in you like, okay, you know, these are things people are doing things, you know. So beyond the hope is
Mm,
also boldness, it's also audacity, which I feel are kind of all linked, you know, as well. And yeah, and sometimes it's also just like a character. You see people who are extremely disciplined and it reminds you that
mm,
maybe you need to get on that because maybe you're not so disciplined. And maybe if you want to achieve something, even if it's a different goal, there are certain character traits that are essential, you know?
yeah.
So maybe I don't want to build an app, but if I have a project that I need to get done, those, you know, seeing that tenacity, seeing the discipline that is required to make something happen, seeing the hard work is something that I've always said. But it keeps getting reinforced every time I go. I'm like, you can have connections, you can have favor, you can have blessings, all those things. You can have, I don't know, you can be a nepo baby, whatever. But
Yeah.
hard work, there is value in hard work. There will always be value in doing the work. The work will not lie. You must do the work. And so that also
Yeah.
keeps getting reinforced with this, because nobody just woke up one morning and was la-di-da-di dying and then made, this thing happen. Work goes into
Yeah.
things, and there's, it might be tedious. It might be, it might be challenging. It's not the fun, shiny stuff, but it needs to
Yeah.
get done. It's that engine that's behind everything. It's the infrastructure behind like these dreams that we all have. It's hard work. Hard work pays. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I could definitely see how that would be something that would stick out to you, because it also sticks out to me, like in terms of the experiences I've had. And as I was even with Inktippedjourneys, when I was speaking to people from Senegal, someone gave an
Mm-hmm.
example. Someone from St. Louis was talking
Yeah.
about these women who wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to go and get fish, to then sell in the markets for their kids. And even at different levels of success or different levels of wealth or whatever, I think what you said is definitely true. Hard work is definitely is in the fabric of a lot of
Yeah.
people from,
Yeah.
across African cultures. And it's this sort of, I guess, desire to succeed or to keep trying in spite of like whatever condition or w- the infrastructure or
Yeah.
other things that they have to
The
deal
village
with.
people.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I literally wrote a whole thing about that
I know.
because
That's why I said it. I remember reading that. That was a good one, though. That was a good piece, too. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I was gonna also ask you, like, based on what you've said about, you know, hard work and that being what resonates with you, were there any stories specifically that stood out to you in that vein?
Stories in terms of what I've covered.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my most recent trip, which was in April, was to Senegal, which is, I love Senegal. And this is my
Same.
second work trip there, but I also went on a vacation there, a few years ago. And
For your
I
birthday,
remember
right?
I did go for my birthday, yes. So I best trip ever. But I remember filming a story with this gentleman Maraz. He does like bags, like leather and stuff like that. So he has this
Mm.
amazing business that he built from the ground up, and I just thought it was so amazing. And then I also was filming a story around the Olympics coming up, the Youth Olympics, and I got to see some of what they're building to make this massive dream come true. This is the first time that Africa is going to host officially the Olympics, and there's all this fanfare around, oh, it's the Olympics, and all this stuff. But beyond that, it's this massive team of people who are doing everything day in, day out to make sure that they put on this
Mhm.
world-class event, because they know that they are representing Africa. And even in
Yeah.
their own expressions, they say, this is not just Senegal. This is not just Dakar. This is Africa welcoming the world. Because once this
Mm.
happens and we can pull it off, it means in the next few years, there's going to be another country that can do something like this. Or we're going to have, it's a pipeline to make sure that Africa is seen differently. And I think because it's also, my most recent trip, it really sticks out to me because they're so passionate about, yeah, we know it's coming to Senegal, but we know
Yeah.
that the world is going to be like Africa. And so we're making
Yeah.
sure as much as we can to equip ourselves, equip the people who are going to be working on this. And they're so dedicated to making sure that the people who are working on this team are people who are going to be trained for things that will outlast and outlive this particular event. It's not just, oh, come and then do this event and then you're off. No, they've built this pipeline, and it's just amazing to see how it's all coming together. And I'm just so excited to see how it's all going to turn out. But I was so proud to be, I mean, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not doing anything, but I was just so proud to be like, wow, our people are doing things. Our people are doing
Yeah.
things, you know? So yeah, but there's so many stories. Honestly, sometimes I forget. I remember going to this in Ghana, there's this company called Hubtel. It's a telecoms company.
Mm.
But the founder, we interviewed the founder, his name is Alex Bram, and he's this man who they started, him and his co-founder started off with SMS messages, like a service, and have built it into this telecoms brand that has not taken outside investment. It is all indigenously funded, owned, run, and it is
Oh, wow.
amazing. You know what I mean? I went to this, I don't know why right now the name is skipping my consciousness, but I went to this campus in Benin Republic, of this school that is just, they're building campuses in Ouida. They have a main campus as well in the city. And it was just, I was so impressed by everything I saw, by the students, by the way that they were trying to make sure that they're building this new generation of people who are doing things differently, and who are dedicated to building the kind of Africa that they want to see in the future, you know? And so there's just so many stories, really, honestly. I'm always so impressed.
Yeah.
These people don't have two heads. Like, what are you doing? But you know, if I wasn't part of the team that's helping to tell the stories, I mean, hey,
Exactly.
so you know, I'm not too bad.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like what you said earlier about amplifying voices, it's so important because, as you said, you get to go to places that not a lot of other people get to go to. Even if they say, oh, I'm going to visit Senegal or I'm going to visit the Gambia, they might not necessarily get to encounter the people that you get to encounter or experience the
Right.
places that you experience. So it's just amazing that you are able to amplify these voices. And as a writer, it really like resonates with me that you go into the specific of like one person's story, but then it has this like resonance more generally because it's so like, even though it's specific, there are things that other people can relate to. Like you said, there are themes that can be drawn across Africa in terms of hard work and
Yeah.
resilience and hope. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you're doing fantastic things. Just
Thank
just to say that.
you.
I mean, I know based on your work, obviously, as you were saying, you deal with a lot of people. You work with a lot of people and you hear a lot of stories. But when you travel for yourself, across the continent or in general, um, what sort of like resonates with you the most, or like what do you enjoy doing? Do you still sort of and try to engage and interact with people? Or are you more about, architecture, arts,
Mm,
nature, food, or a combination?
mhm.
Like, what's your travel
Yeah.
vibe if it's just Lamide exploring?
I mean, it's a mix, really. One thing that I love to do is one of the things I enjoy is sewing. I'm a sewist, as they say.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's one of my hobbies. And apart from, so everybody that sews as a hobby knows that sewing is one part of it. Collecting fabric is actually another part of it. Like, you know, so I always like to get a fabric souvenir from wherever I go. So it could be a shawl, but nowadays it tends to be, I want to find like what's the fabric of this place so that I can get
Mm,
something and actually make something from it. So I like to do that. So I like to go to look at their art. I like to look at what they make with their hands because it's so, you can tell a lot about a people by like the tactile sort of nature of the things that
yeah.
are around them. Yeah. So I like to do that. Sometimes I just want to chill, yeah, but I like to do a little bit of everything. I like to experience good
Mm,
food. I like to walk around. I love places that you can just kind of walk around and see things, whether accompanied or not. Because it's
mm,
one of the things I miss about, maybe not being in London or something like that. Like places that are walkable. Nigeria is not very walkable.
yes.
So yeah. So sometimes I do like that, just wandering around, getting a little bit lost, maybe not. I still like to do touristy things. If I'm going somewhere for the first time, I'll still like to do one of the touristy things. And then nowadays,
Yeah.
even though I just haven't had so much time to do it, nowadays I feel this um urge to do experiences, like how you travel somewhere and they
Mm,
actually have these experiences. So you could do food classes, and I mean, you could do cooking
yeah.
classes, or you could do, something like that that's very much native to that place. I want to try and
Mm-hmm.
do that in the future when I go to a new place, right? Is to just let me experience something. I want
Yeah.
to, yeah, I want to be, in as much as just I'm a tourist, I want to do a little bit of immersion. So just dip your toe in, learn something about, whatever it is about the place that is fascinating to you or to me. And then do all
Yeah.
the other regular stuff, like go to the market and, buy some fabric, or, always, buy something, that's supporting the local economy, AKA just do a bit of shopping,
Yeah.
and all of
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
win-win. No, but I would
Win-win.
say that I think I'm similar to you. I love food a lot, but outside of
Hmm.
that, like definitely arts and crafts and experiencing those aspects of like places I travel. But I also get what you mean about the experiences. I feel like that's a really cool way to connect with the place and to also be able
Yeah,
to like have a specific memory that you can associate with the place. I've done a couple of
absolutely.
cooking classes, but not on the continent so far. So I
Ah,
need to add
okay.
that to my list.
Yes,
It'd be so
yes,
nice to learn
yes,
to make
yes.
chiboudienne, for example, in Senegal. Like
Yes,
that would be
yes, yes,
nice.
yes. I actually saw something on Instagram with somebody that I follow who was there, I think around the same time that I was, and did a Thibaudian class, and I was like, oh, okay.
Mm,
My next trip out there,
on the list.
gotta try. Even though they be like, oh, it's okay. I'm not fighting you guys. Let me try learn how to make it. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not fighting you guys about
I'm
this
like
jollof issue.
literally,
It's okay. It's
yes.
been, it's dead. Leave it alone. Just leave it
Yeah,
alone.
I'm like,
Let me.
why do we even have to call them the same thing? Like to be
They're
completely
so
honest, like it's
different.
all great, just
Yeah.
different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but I also love what you were saying about collecting fabric because
Yes,
I do see the things that you make is so cool. And
Thank
to
you.
try and incorporate different fabrics from, different places into your outfits is
Yeah,
amazing. Do you
thank
ever try to
you.
like mix fabrics that you get from different places into like one?
Absolutely, absolutely. If they
That
work,
is,
if they work, yeah.
yeah.
And like I have a bunch of shawls that I got from Morocco, but they're not shawls that you just wrap around you. Like they're so beautiful
Mm,
and beautifully made. I keep thinking, okay, I have a few of them in a different shade of the same color, like pink, and they've got like little bits of, so I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out how I can like, because I think I'm probably going to frame one instead of just like having it as a
Oh,
throw. So I think I'm going to
yeah.
frame one, or if I can make it work, like cut two or three of them and like patchwork it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, and then frame that, and then have the other one out as a throw. I stitch it together, and then have one like kind of
Yeah.
like a, something stretched around something. I don't know. I figure it out, but yeah, because some of them, they're just so beautiful. I just want, yeah, I want my home to feel like everywhere a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I've started collecting woven baskets, and that's like another
Love those. It's
interesting
such an
thing.
African thing
Yeah,
because everywhere you go, they have
yeah.
baskets.
But that's crazy to what you
Yeah.
like because how did they across what you were saying about how like for example people were tying fabric when you went to Zambia and you were thinking
Mm-hmm.
about oh that's like in Nigeria. The fact that you see those woven baskets in like I saw them in Rwanda,
Everywhere.
they have them
Yes.
in yeah.
They have them in Madagascar. I was like, oh, here too. I bought in Senegal. I'm like, but the thing is that essentially it's one of these things where we're all one people. Somebody came and drew
Yeah.
lines. And then someone
Mhm,
took this
mhm.
part and said, oh, wait, it belongs to us. And then and that is what it is. And so
Yeah.
some of those things, they won't go away just because fundamentally as a people, I think it's just one of the things that maybe it's God that's like saying, don't forget
Mhm.
that there are so many things about who you are that are the same. And so despite these
Yeah.
divisions and these border lines, there are so many
Mhm.
things that still should be able to remind us that, oh, there are many things that link us as a people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even when it comes to art, like, all the art over the centuries, like I remember going to, a couple of these museums, like there's one in Paris, and you see the different types of art, and like that it's been of importance for many
Mhm.
centuries, and also
Mhm.
like whether it's like spiritual or it's for different reasons, but that we all valued art like in our separate parts of the
The
continent.
yeah,
For example, I'm
yeah.
just like, this is so interesting because like we've kind of like always valued, certain things, and it
Yes.
transcends like across
Yeah,
different locations. So it's
absolutely.
really cool to see those points of
Things, yeah.
connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel so too.
When you travel, I mean, both for work and for holiday in African countries, how have you been received?
So, I think generally, if I'm traveling for holiday, I'm not going anywhere where it's gonna be like, oh, we hate them. I'm going somewhere where I know,
Yeah,
in a way, I'm gonna be welcome.
things will be
I mean,
chill.
who
Yeah,
doesn't like, yeah,
not trying to
and
stress
then for
yourself.
work, yeah, not at all. I was trying to have a good time. And then with work, I feel like this question is, I might not be the right person to even answer it, just because if I'm going for a holiday, I'm going somewhere where I want to discover, I want to experience it, but I know that it's going to be, for
Hmm.
example, safe for me, maybe as a solo traveler, or if I'm traveling with just a couple of people or
Yeah,
friends or whatever, that it's safe for me as a woman, as a da 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 and all that stuff. I'm gonna go that way. So
yeah.
generally, it's I'm safe in that way. I'm not going hiking in like some outskirts of, I don't know, Botswana.
Yeah,
And then for work, usually I'm traveling because they know I'm coming to tell their story, right? So already
yeah,
I'm being received well because I'm doing something that's gonna benefit you. So already there's that
yeah,
aspect
yeah.
of it. But I would say even just, I mean, beyond the, oh, I'm going to this office or this factory to cover this story, being out and about in the community, filming on the streets, things like that, it can be really fun. A lot of times it's quite fun. Because people will do a little bit of one two, or they'll stop and look, or they'll be curious. And when I go with my
Mm,
colleague, most of the time I travel with my colleague who's also a woman, and so it's a lot of times I get that, wow, two women with cameras and they're carrying tripods and they're doing all these things. And so there's a lot of that of like, wow. So, wow, this is what you're doing. So sometimes it's very nice too sometimes, because I'm also very much I'm a feminist. So I'm very much yes, we
yeah,
can do all the things. And yes, we do
yeah.
these things. And so I would say generally, I mean, we're received quite well. I'm received quite well. People are generally quite happy, to see us coming, or to see me coming,
Nice.
whether it's for work or, as just a tourist in their city. So yeah.
Nice. And I mean, we're speaking much earlier about connectivity and,
Mm,
some of the challenges when it comes to infrastructure. Um, so I've seen even on your social media that you've spoken about that in the past, like what it's like traveling on a Nigerian passport. So, I mean, tell me about that element, because
yeah.
as much as, there's so many beauties of traveling on the continent,
It
there are a lot of
is.
realities as well. So, yeah, what's
It's
your
the
experience been
bane
like?
of it's the bane of my existence. It is. It's, as I said, like, I like being on a plane. I love all that stuff. The process
Yeah.
of getting on that plane to the place, it is a shame that for me to
Mm,
get to somewhere that's close by, I've got to go around the world. Not literally, but I've got to fly, somewhere that's just up the coast. I've got to take a 10-hour, or, a 9-10 hour journey to get there. So connectivity and moving around has been quite challenging, for many of the
mm,
trips that I've gone. Obviously, with places like Ghana, it's right next door to Nigeria, well, almost next door to Nigeria. And so it's just one flight,
mm,
right? Which is great. Um, Benin Republic, is also just a drive. So because if you want to
mhm.
fly there, you have to go to a different country, and that doesn't make any sense, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
literally right next door. We share a border. And
Yeah.
so, but for some of the other places that I've had to go to, for example, Cameroon, that was a trip that was extremely difficult. And it's the connectivity on the continent is one of the biggest missed opportunities I think that we've had. I think it separates us more than we need to be. And I think it's a bunch of it's a lot of policies and procedures that are not necessary if we can just kind of get it together, right? I think we need to want to, and then the people who have the power to change things need to also want to make those changes. But it's definitely one of the things that we have to think about whenever we want to go somewhere. Sometimes you want to go somewhere and it's so cost prohibitive and the journey to get there is so difficult that you end up scrapping it. That doesn't mean that this country doesn't have wonderful stories that need to be told. It just means you mean for me to get there, I've got to pay up to $4,000 and, travel for a day and a half. It's not ideal. And so what happens is that story doesn't get told, at least maybe by me. Maybe then we have to figure out a way around it.
Yeah, no, it's such a shame, especially when you were talking about neighboring countries like that we share borders with. To go from Lagos to Yaoundé, for example, I heard that you'd have to go Lagos to Abuja, then Abuja to Douala, Douala to Yaoundé. So, and
So the
then
way I went when
I,
I went to
yeah,
Yaoundé, I did Lagos
hmm
to Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan, and
yeah,
then you got a long wait, and then you fly to Yaoundé.
wow. No, I imagine it's very inconvenient. And for example, for me, I was gonna go to Niger for work at some point, and then I was thinking, oh, does it make sense to go to from Nigeria? And then I thought actually it probably makes more sense for me to be in Paris and
Yep,
then fly from
yep.
Paris. So yeah, I see. I mean, I have no experience there at your level because obviously you travel so much around the continent and
Mm-hmm.
you're traveling as well from Nigeria a lot. And so I can only imagine what it's like, but I would definitely agree that connectivity is a major issue.
The
Um,
biggest one.
and would you
And
say in
cost.
terms of, yes, cost,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But would you say that in terms of like traveling, for example, if with a Nigerian passport, have you found that there've been difficulties with that, like within the continent?
Yeah, I mean, luckily when I'm doing West Africa, I don't have much of a problem. Also, thankfully, ECOWAS passport,
True.
all that good stuff. So that's fine. But definitely flying. I mean, when I went to Madagascar, I had to go through Kenya, and that was before they made it visa free for everybody on the continent, or for everybody. And so I remember having issues with my passport and being threatened at the airport that I would sleep on the floor. Like it's just a bit of a nightmare, and all of that kind of stuff. But you know, having this green passport sometimes can be quite difficult. There's certain countries that even if I wanted to, even if I got the opportunity to travel to
Mm,
those countries to film things, it would be really difficult. Places like South Africa tend to be quite difficult for Nigerians to get visas, for
mm,
example. There's certain places that have changed their policies. Tanzania has changed their policy. They used to be visa on arrival and they changed that. But there are still many countries that will allow you to do a visa on arrival and things like that. And so we're very happy for those ones. But for those who are
yeah,
not quite there yet, it is problematic. I mean, I decide where I'm going by where is going to give me the least visa application issues and, actually entering the country, and where does it have a reputation for like being friendly to Nigerians or to the green passport, because
yeah,
that saves me
yeah.
just a whole lot of headache. But it means also that it limits where I can explore on the continent
Mm,
in a way. I'm the one doing the limiting just because I don't want to deal with it. I suppose if I wanted to deal with it, I just would, but I just actually don't.
yeah,
And so I won't bother.
yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, especially when you work, like obviously you have to go through a lot in terms of, your different travels and different routes. So I imagine that when you want to when you explore, you want to also rest and take it
Yes.
easy and not stress
I want
yourself.
peace, not problems.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I guess from your experience, also from, telling these stories and amplifying voices, and just in terms of people how would you say that the perception of like travel in Africa or being African has evolved like over
Oh,
time?
yeah, it's definitely much more cool to
Yeah.
be African or African connected. A lot more people want to come
Mm,
to the continent. There's just this, I mean, in the years of, we're now in this era of, return home. The world is on fire. Let's go to Africa. A lot of people are seeing, especially a lot of people from the diaspora, the Black diaspora, they're feeling like they're looking for a connection. They're looking for something different from where they are, right? They're looking for something that feels more, feels more like home to them, that they can connect with. They can connect with their people. And while that also has its own set of challenges, when you go to a place where maybe, now things are happening like gentrification and all those things, it's happening as well, in
yeah.
Africa. It is definitely so different now, even from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I feel like a lot more people are willing, a lot more people are trying to explore
Mm,
the continent, and explore the continent in different ways. Not just, we're going to go to the top hotel in this country and then sit in the hotel and then just go to the beach and then come back. No, a lot of people are trying to do things that, let's connect with the people. What are the people like? What are they
mm,
doing? Let's have experiences. And I think that's also why there's a rise of like experiential travel, where you have
mm,
people book things and say, okay, listen, I'm coming to the continent with 20 people. I want us to have da 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 da. And so now you're seeing, walking tours that you would see a walking tour in Spain or in Paris. You're also going to see it in
yeah.
Tanzania, or you're going to see it in Rwanda. You're going to see people do food tours and food experiences. You're going to see people do arts and culture. Things like art weeks are so, you know, I
Mm,
mean, fashion, when Dakar, for example, had the
yeah.
the big, the Dior, thing. Like, there's just so much now that is on the continent. And that's because the way people see the continent has changed, and their willingness to explore the continent has also changed. And that may be a function of what the world is doing and how people are evolving, and the generations that are now able to travel and that can now afford to travel. So that may also be part of it. But it's just beautiful to see, to be actually, because, 10 years ago, maybe somebody probably wouldn't say, oh, I want to go spend a month in Ghana. I want to go spend a month in Abidjan.
Yeah.
I want to go and find out what's going on in, Mozambique or Equatorial Guinea. But now people are like, what's there? Okay, let's see what's there. Let's even go. Let's even try. Let's even experience it.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it for us. And I hope we can make it work for
Yeah,
us.
no. Yeah, same. And it's really interesting, like as you said, because even like for example, when it comes to African Americans and like for example with Ghana, the year of return, or people
Return.
like Sierra getting like, the passport for I think it was Benna and Megan Good
Yeah.
and all these people. And it's like, wait, what is going on? And it's really interesting because I don't know what specifically has caused it, but maybe it's like a different things. And then also, as you said, there's a rise of like even African creatives, and I think there's more exposure on that side. Then you have like social media, and we can tell our own
Absolutely.
stories.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I think people are seeing that we're a lot more alike than they
Mm,
thought. When Africa was just a concept. Oh, in
yeah.
Africa, I literally remember in school, someone asking me, so do y'all live on trees? I literally remember like a human being looking at me and asking me that, and I just thought, so if I lived on a tree, how would I be here? Like, can you hear yourself? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we've gone from that now to people, again, social media is, you cannot deny, it's been the great equalizer, the great amplifier
Yeah.
in itself. And then I think also it's a different generation of people who are curious. They're more curious and ready to explore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they
That's
are
true.
now the adults who now can fund their own thing, right? So someone isn't telling you, oh no, we're not
Yeah.
going there. You know what it's like in Africa, so now they're seeing these things and they're like, well, I mean, let's go see. Let's go see what it looks like. Let's go see what it feels like. Let's go see, let's
Yeah.
do some research and things like that. And I think that's the biggest thing, is to be curious is one of the biggest flexes anybody can have.
Yeah.
Being curious about life, being curious about people, being curious about, things, it leads you to, a lot of new discoveries. And maybe they're not all the most pleasant ones, but it's such a great muscle to exercise. Like anybody who's not curious, it's almost like you're sort of killing your own brain, right? Because you've got to,
Yes.
yeah, you've got to, we are not in this world only for ourselves, and whether people have that belief in God or in whatever they choose to believe, we're not on this earth only for ourselves and only for the place we inhabit. We're not. Facts. And so
Yeah.
when people are curious about what else is out there and who else is out there and what do those people do and how do they live and how is it the same as me or how is it different from me, I think it's for our benefit. You may go and find out that you actually don't like it, but you went. And that means you've
Yeah.
explored. That means you've done something, yeah, you're interacting with the world, We're not just here just to be in a small corner and then, and then eventually leave this world.
No, I love what you said about curiosity being a flex. And earlier you were speaking about wonder as well. And yeah, it's so beautiful to be able to expose yourself to things and then have like such a rich experience, whether it is by meeting people or learning more about how people live in another corner of the world and like learning about different cultures. And yeah, no, I think for me, I mean, also when it comes to writing, curiosity is how I then interact with what's going
Engage,
on or
yeah.
when I observe. So yeah, but it
Absolutely.
was funny when you were talking about how we're now the adults and we're obviously kind of more
Mm-hmm.
open to travel because the number of times I'll tell my mom or my dad, oh, I'm trying to go here or do this thing. And they're like,
Ah, no, it's not
what's
safe.
going
Don't go.
on? Yeah, what?
Like, why do you want to go
And it's
there?
so
I'm like,
different.
because there are people there. I just want to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I think for and I guess also it's true what you were saying. It's like also privilege as well because
Mm-hmm.
growing up, like even having the opportunity to travel, is such a privilege. Um, in in like my case, for example, we would let's say be going to England and France
Mm-hmm.
or like
Mm-hmm.
America, places like that. Um, and then now, like yeah, as you were saying, we're the adults and we are exposed to all these other options, all these other places. And in
Yeah.
some ways, not in all ways, but I would say that in some ways, I would say that travel has become a bit more affordable, at least maybe not travel on the continent, but travel like in
Yes.
Europe, for example.
Yes.
Like how
Yes.
you can
Yes.
just get
Yes.
on an easy jet flight and then go
Yeah.
somewhere for a
Yeah.
hundred
Yeah.
pounds or
Yeah.
something.
Pounds or euros.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's kind of like increased this like appetite for travel and discovery. But yeah, it's been really cool. No, but it's been so great to speak to you.
It's been wonderful
I
to speak
have
to you.
I have a couple
Mm-hmm.
of quick fire questions
All right.
for you. Now
Okay.
that we're getting to the end of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
I'm nervous.
First of all, no, don't worry, you're good. You've got this. What is the most underrated place in Africa that you've experienced?
My goodness. What is the most underrated place in Africa that I have experienced? Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan.
I would agree because I can
Yeah,
see myself living there.
it is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it, and I don't know why, but like being in Abidjan reminded me of Lagos, but like with more
Yes,
space and like
but
more
with
nature.
more
But
space and with
yeah,
more like structure. And it's just like, oh, there was just something about the vibe. It was
yeah,
just very, no, I love it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree. I love that.
yeah.
I know this one already, but where are you going next? Where's your next trip in Africa?
I'm going to the Gambia.
Nice.
Yes.
Um, where would you visit again? And like let me change it. Where would you visit again on your own, not for work, but like just,
Mm.
yeah.
I would go back to Senegal 1,000 times, but beyond Senegal, I would go back to Zambia. I want to experience Zimbabwe again, and I would love to go back to Tanzania as well. Rwanda is also a firm favorite.
Okay, so in terms of the places that you've said that I've gone to, Senegal, absolute love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Rwanda was amazing.
Uh-huh.
I really want to go back to Rwanda. I remember you even did like Lamide travels in Rwanda.
Yeah, I love
Really cool.
Rwanda. I love Rwanda. Yeah.
Yeah, and Zambia and Zimbabwe, I definitely need to make that happen. So
Yep.
that's coming
Yep.
soon. And then
Yes.
final question, where would you
Okay.
live? Like if you could live somewhere else on the continent?
If I say Senegal.
Don't worry, like me
um,
too.
I mean, it's a toss up, really, honestly. But I love Senegal. The crime of it all is that I don't speak French. But it would be either Abidjan, or it would be Senegal. Yeah.
You know what's really crazy, Lamide, is those are the two places that I would consider moving to. I
Yeah.
like it doesn't hurt that both of them, like in terms of my field, like in development, they're both hubs, and I'm
Yes,
like,
they're
oh,
great
okay,
places. Yep, 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 yep. I
yeah.
mean, that's okay.
And
You
also
just go
you
and then I
speak
come visit.
exactly, that works as well. And
Yeah,
you speak Spanish, and I
I
feel like
do.
French, you can just,
It's just about
you
make
can
some,
cross
yeah, I
over.
can kind of just about make some words out. Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for this. This was like such an amazing conversation. And
Thank you.
yeah,
I had a
I
great
love your work. I
time.
love your travel.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say I'm so proud of what you're doing with Inktip Journeys. I'm so proud of what you're doing with Inktip,
Thank
period.
you.
Because I think it's wonderful to see you express your passions in this way, and also for the benefit of other people, because when people get to listen to your conversations, they get to experience, those journeys through the eyes of other people. And I think that's so beneficial. So well done. You're doing great. I'm very proud of
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for speaking with me.
It was a pleasure.